Okay, so this is a video of me explaining the 25th nakshatra out of the 27 nakshatras. And this nakshatra is known as Purva Bhadrapada. This is a nakshatra that falls in between the degrees of 20 degrees Aquarius all the way to 3.20 degrees of Pisces. The deity that rules and controls this nakshatra is Ajakapada. And the planet that rules and controls this nakshatra is Jupiter. And the symbolisms of this nakshatra is either swords, twins, and also a funeral cot, which I looked up, and it's basically like a stretcher, something of a little cart, a little means of transportation to help transport a deceased person's body. And what else? Also, another fun thing about this nakshatra is that this is the last nakshatra whose motivation is Artha. What is Artha? Artha is one of the four main motivations, at least in Hinduism, is one of the main four motivations of a person, of humanity. Artha in particular is essentially the things that we do to feed ourselves, the things we do to bring in money and to provide for ourselves. That is Artha. So your 9-to-5 job, how you make money and support yourself, is your Artha, essentially. And as I told you in the last nakshatra video, that was the last nakshatra with Dharma. So these last few nakshatras is like the completion of. It's like that nakshatra is fulfilled when it comes to the motivation of its nakshatra. So here in Purva Bhadrapada, it's like this people who have planets within this nakshatra, they feel fulfilled, or they feel they had their appetite and their thirst quenched when it comes to obtaining wealth and a means of supporting themselves. But you'll understand where I'm going as I continue making this video, and I'm gonna be looking at my notes a whole lot, so bear with me. Also, the sexual animal associated with this nakshatra is a male lion. So let's get into this video, because I'm sure it'll be a nice little hour-long video like all my other videos have been. So let's start with Ajakapada, because this was a very confusing nakshatra for me back before I started really getting into astrology real heavy and stuff. So essentially, when you break down the name Ajakapada, Aja, Aka, Pada, essentially we put it all together, essentially the name sort of means like something that is one-footed, something that was neither born nor dead, something that had an unusual birth. I don't got time to, specifically break down what this Aja mean, Aka mean, Pada mean. Y'all would have to Google that yourself or do your own little deep, heavy research, because there's many different interpretations of what the name means. But some people describe this deity as a one-footed goat. And some people describe this deity as a fire-breathing dragon or a snake, a serpent. Because a serpent has one singular body. And dragons, nagas, and snakes, they're also the synonymous. To refresh our memory, nagas are the humanoid snake-like deities, and they specifically rule Aslesha nakshatra in Cancer. But off the top of my head, Aja means something that is unnatural, unborn. And Pada means like a foot, means like a step. And Aka, I believe, don't quote me exactly on what Aka means, I don't want to misinform y'all, but essentially, when you interpret the name Ajakapada, which is the name of the deity, you can come up with many different interpretations of what is something that has one foot, and what is also something that has an unusual birth. So, the most popular theory that I like to go with, based upon my own little research that I've done, is that this deity, you can imagine it as like some fire-breathing dragon, some celestial fire-breathing serpent. But I also like to think of like some universal, cosmic, divine fire. Why? I say that because, think about it. And also I like to think about our soul. Because when you do like your own research and read a bunch of maybe spiritual books, especially maybe some stuff like some Vedic Hinduism stuff, you'll sort of see or understand or hear that the soul, our soul, is something that was neither born nor has ever died. It simply existed, sort of like God, sort of like consciousness. We don't know the origin of God, how we all came to be, and who created God, but we just know there's something that has always existed since the beginning of time. It's sort of like the Big Bang, a fiery explosion or whatever. You know, we don't know what existed before the Big Bang. We just know that it just happened. It just existed. So that's sort of what a Jacopada is. It's something that has existed, but it has an unusual birth because we don't know the origins of it. That's sort of like the essence of a Jacopada. The name, when you break down the name of the deity and stuff, it's like this fiery dragon or serpent that spits out and produces this cosmic fire. It's like a cosmic fire that wants to dissolve and destroy all of our material wants and pleasures so it can obtain and seek something higher. Because as I told you, this is the last nakshatra that is associated with Artha, which motivation is to obtain wealth and jobs and sustenance. So this being the final nakshatra of it, it's sort of like it represents like a completion of that thing. So people who have planets in this nakshatra, or like they're ascending in this nakshatra, this nakshatra can produce a range of people. This nakshatra can produce someone who, you know, they have a bunch of money, they have a nice car, they have all these nice materialistic things around them, but they still not happy. They still not satisfied. They don't know why they're not happy. And this can, and depending on a person's chart, it can make them do like some crazy serial killer, psychotic stuff. And the reason I say that is because, well, for one crazy example, let's say that you feel numb. Nothing excites you anymore. So depending on how your mind is, you might think randomly killing people and getting away with it. You might think that's fun. So you can become a serial killer. So you can feel like some type of adrenaline rush and excitement. You might think, I don't know, all type of psychotic stuff, you know. But these people can potentially go to extreme means and methods to seek deeper meaning in life. Because typically, if nothing materialistically satisfies you, essentially or naturally, you'll either go crazy, become like some crazy serial killer, or just be upset and unhappy all the time, or you'll go down a spiritual path. And these are all the different avenues and directions that a person who has planets in Purva Bhadrapada can go. Because the people in Purva Bhadrapada, they want to seek something deeper and higher and more meaningful beyond materialistic sense pleasures. But until the Purva Bhadrapada native becomes conscious of this, these people, they might just be very unsatisfied with the things of this world. They're like, I don't care about dating. I don't care about going to the club or amusement parks. I don't care about none of the things that everyone is into. And I want to escape. I want to go leave this world. Because think about it. The symbolism of this nakshatra is a funeral cot. It's you know, an equipment or whatever you want to call it that is used to transport a dead body. Where does a dead body go if it's not cremated? It goes into a coffin and it's put in the ground 6 feet under. The body, the soul, when you die, the soul leaves the body, and the body is going somewhere that humans can't see you. It's going deep, dark, underground. It's going to essentially another world. It's like the body is going to a different, you know, realm or plane, and the soul has left it. So these people, they want to escape this world because they're not happy with it. They're not satisfied with it. You know, so these people, they want to get to another side, another world, some way, somehow. And this can manifest in doing drugs, like ayahuascas, DMTs, whatever. They want to escape this world. They might want to try to astral project. They might want to actually try to have their soul leave their body. They might become curious about aliens and the occult. They just want to find something else besides the things that we do on our regular 9-to-5 job or in our day-to-day life, because that stuff doesn't excite them, it doesn't amuse them. It's almost like American Psycho, if that's the correct name of the movie, where stars Christian Bale, where he's like some rich guy with money, but he dates women, and then he ends up killing them. That actually might be like the story, that might actually be like the Netflix show You, which I have never seen, but from my ignorant observations, it seems like a crazy, psychotic stalker who ends up killing the women, or killing the women that he likes that don't like them, that don't like him, and kill their lovers. But that's just my ignorant analysis. I'm pretty sure I'm somewhere close in regards to what You, the Netflix show, is about. But that's what a Purva Bhadrapada can, they can be. They want to get to the other side, so they might get into astrology, or they might become real religious and spiritual. They want to get into contact and connection with something more. And this is why this nakshatra, alternate symbols, is like two swords, or it's twins, because this nakshatra also sort of deals with like a double life, parallel worlds and dimensions. Because what is the essence and nature of a sword? A sword can hurt you, and essentially a sword, it just cuts you. It splits things. It separates things. So the soul of the Purva Bhadrapada person, essentially, they want their soul to be freed from these material things. It doesn't want to be bonded to this body. And the symbolism of twins, there's also an alternative symbolism of this nakshatra. The twin symbolism can be in relation to these people having a double life. These people can be someone who works their 9-to-5 job, or that nice suit and tie job, or be around their family, but they got a whole nother life. I mean, we all sort of do to an extent, but these people you probably never know. They could be Bruce Wayne in the morning, Batman at night, Clark Kent in the morning, and then Superman in Metropolis in the evening. You could go to church with your family and keep up appearances, but behind closed doors, you're into tarot and astrology. These people could just have that double life. Or these people can have weird kinks and fetishes and interests. Like, you could be dating someone who has some prominent planets in Purva Bhadrapada, and they just be into some unusual or weird or different stuff that you didn't know. Like, you probably offer them a drink, some liquor, and they'd be like, "Oh, I don't really drink. I don't drink. I don't want to drink." You'd be like, "What? You don't drink? What? You don't smoke? What? You don't look at sports? You don't do this? You don't do that? Then what do you do?" The Purva Bhadrapada person could be like that, because the things of this world, it just doesn't interest them. So they might become a renunciant. They might become an ascetic. They might become a nomad, a gypsy. They might just run away from the world and go into nature, or just live far away and disassociate themselves from reality. Because either there's people who don't think like them, or they just don't like the people in this world, or they just not into this world, so they just detach themselves from the world. They want to detach themselves, like I said, this is described as like some fiery breathing dragon, or a fiery serpent. And it's described as a fiery serpent. And one of the other symbolisms or things that was used to describe this nakshatra when I was researching it is that essentially, think of Purva Bhadrapada people. They sort of describe this nakshatra as like a sacrificial altar, and you putting things on an altar and then it gets cremated. It just gets destroyed by fire. Like, it's many different symbolisms. You can imagine you putting all your material wealth into like maybe like some bonfire, and you're burning it because or you're just burning stuff. You're just burning and throwing money away into a pit of fire because that stuff, it doesn't excite you no more. Or the association of fire that is constantly related to this nakshatra could be your soul being purified. You know, because people, when they die, they can also get cremated. You can also get cremated. Fire, symbolically, in a bunch of stuff, is also sort of seen to purify things. So one thing that a Purva Bhadrapada person wants to do also is purify themselves and purify the souls of other people. Why? Because the Shakti of this nakshatra is the power to raise the evolutionary level or power of spiritual fire to awaken the spirituality in a person. So a Purva Bhadrapada person could be someone who subjects themselves to harsh austerities and penances. Austerities and penances are like harsh forms of self-punishment, of self-inflicting pain, or just harsh, cruel and sometimes unnecessary spiritual practices upon themselves to maybe gain the favor of a deity, and or to, you know, seek some type of spiritual goal or path. You know, some yogis, some mystics, at least from what I've quickly glanced and heard, some try to lay on a bed of a nail, or some stand and keep their balance and try to stand on one foot as long as they can, or some walk around and just have their hand in the air. They just walk around with their arm in the air for as long as they can, or they do all type of weird things. Some try to, you know, they sacrifice a limb. They let an arm shrivel up and become deprived of like nutrients or whatever to gain all type of favors, or for whatever reasons they do this stuff. Y'all can go look this up yourselves. But why would someone want to inflict pain and punishment and torture upon themselves to purify themselves or to liberate their soul? Well, I read a book that translated the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. In the book, the author described a great analogy to explain why some people put themselves through this pain and punishment and torture and stuff, and claim that it's to purify their soul. And he used the example, the analogy of washing your clothes. Think about this. To get your clothes nice and white, clean and white, if you're washing white clothes, you put them in a wash machine, boiling hot water, and in that water, and you put in chemicals, you put in bleach in it, and then it's getting shook around for like an hour or however long in that wash machine. It's getting beat up in that wash machine to get clean. And then after you take it out the wash machine, you throw it in the dryer, where it's getting tossed around again even more, and getting blasted with scorching hot heat. And we do all of that just so we can have clean white clothes, or just have clean clothes in general. So in the same way that we essentially are beating up our clothes so that they can become clean and purified, some people believe that they can cleanse and purify their soul through pain. So you might see these people, they might love getting a lot of piercings. They might like cutting themselves. They can have high pain tolerance. And for whatever sick, twisted reason, they might think that it's good that they do these type of things or whatever. And, yes, I've lost my train of thought, but these people, they could just love to do these type of things, cause a lot of self-inflicted pain upon themselves, or just to maybe purify their souls. At least from a conscious perspective, that's what they might do. But if they're not even into astrology, and they're not into this stuff, then you might just see these type of themes appear and happen within their lives. And then on a psychotic tip, these people think that they can purify and maybe liberate and cleanse your soul through some sick psychotic means. They can justify their morally conflicting and wrong actions and say that it was motivated because it was an act of God. Like, I'm just going to throw a crazy wild example, which probably isn't a good example, but it's going to give you shock value to really, go across the image that I'm trying to, paint of how someone might have twisted, motivated reasons to justify their actions and say that it was for like a higher cause. Like, for example, terrorists. They will die. Some terrorists, they'll die in the name of their leader, in the name of their God. They'll kill themselves and a bunch of innocent people in order to make a point. And they'll think that their sacrifice of what they just did was for a higher and noble cause. That's what something a Purva Bhadrapada, that's something potentially on the negative dark side a Purva Bhadrapada person could do. They could maybe kill and then try to justify it with something. They might rape someone and say that they did it for whatever sick, twisted reason. They could potentially do morally wrong things and say that it was for some higher purpose. And even if it was true, it could just naturally make them an outcast in society. Because it's like, who the hell would do that? This person's crazy. What else can I say about this nakshatra? But I think y'all starting to understand the direction and area I'm going with this nakshatra. I'm looking at my notes, so give me a moment. There we go. So, think about it. I told you already that the Purva Bhadrapada person, essentially, they want to escape this world. Because they just want to escape this world because the things in it doesn't satisfy them. So they want to go beyond their 5 senses. They want to go beyond their sense pleasures. They want to go to the astral. Yeah, they want to go to the astral world. They want to go levitate and project and do whatever type of stuff. They want to communicate with spirits, get into astrology and all that. They want to do things that go beyond their senses, which is smelling, hearing, seeing, tasting, feeling. They want to go beyond those 5 senses. So, when you try to live a life that doesn't satiate, that doesn't feed your senses, it can actually sort of make you a spiritual person or form you into a different person. It's sort of like going to jail. You don't have access to sex like you want. You don't have access to the food like you want. And that can either make you psychotic and crazy, or make you become religious and spiritual. And that's sort of like what can happen to a Purva Bhadrapada person. It's almost like, think of a Purva Bhadrapada person as like, you lose your sense of touch. And you lose your sense of taste. So you eat food, but you don't taste the food. You having sex, or you try to pleasure yourself, but you don't feel nothing. That's something that a Purva Bhadrapada person can sort of experience. Not literally, but metaphorically. The stuff that they consume and partaking in this world might not satisfy them. So they do some crazy extreme stuff. And I'm seeing what else do I need to say about this nakshatra. Another interpretation of this deity, Ajakapada, is that it's stated that this deity is one of the 11 Rudras. So, to refresh our memory, because I go in deep detail about Rudra, who is a specific deity that rules Ardra Nakshatra in Gemini. But essentially, it's stated that Lord Brahma, the creator god in Hinduism, he got upset because his children wasn't listening to him. Lord Brahma wanted his sons, his children, to reproduce, to populate the universe, to populate the world But they didn't want to have sex. They didn't want to populate the world. They wanted to do spiritual stuff or whatever. So he gets upset, and out of his forehead is stated that Rudra came out of his head. Some being named Rudra came out, and it was angry, and it split itself up into 11 males known as Rudras and 11 women known as Rudrani. And then eventually they was spread out across the universe or the world, and they caused a lot of havoc and destruction. And then Lord Brahma calls them or summons them back, and he tells them that they just can't be destructive for no reason, and that they need to meditate on God and stuff. So it stated that all the Rudras and Rudranis, they became one body, and Rudra went to a mountain or someplace to meditate, and out of this deep meditation, Rudra changed his form into what we know as Shiva. And Shiva is a deity, one of the major gods in Hinduism, who's associated with time and death and destruction. So before Rudra became Shiva, at least to my understanding and interpretation of things, the Rudras are just like 11 different aspects of Shiva, and they all are sort of destructive in nature, because the Rudra associated with Ardra nakshatra is like some storm god, a hunter, and some people believe that a Jacopada, the deity of this nakshatra, is one of those 11 Rudras, but like some fiery, destructive entity. So, like I said, yet again, fire is associated with this nakshatra. And some people associated a one-footed goat with this nakshatra. And people associate this nakshatra, consider this nakshatra to be like a nakshatra of like some cosmic, mystical, divine fire. Because with some people taking the interpretation that this deity is like some one-footed goat, they said that they believe and interpret it as this deity is the mount, the form of transportation of Agni. Agni is a fire god. Agni rules Kritika nakshatra in Aries and Taurus, and Agni is depicted with his ram. He rides a ram, or he rides a goat. You can see him seated on one. So some people interpret that this nakshatra is essentially the deity that rules it is that goat that Agni, the fire god, rides on. But however way you look at it, however way you want to interpret this, these people, they want to go beyond their material sense pleasures. They want to purify their souls and purify and liberate and free the souls of other people, either through righteous or immoral ways and methods. Their way of thinking can isolate them. Them not being interested in what most of the vast majority of people are interested in can isolate themselves. These people not realizing sometimes that the stuff that they partake in, their friends they hang around with, the job that they're trying to go for, the education that they're going for, if they're unconscious and aware of it, they don't realize that that can in turn make them some fire-breathing dragon. They have all these things, and they're just angry and upset all the time. And they might think that being upset and feeling this way is being normal. They might think that being miserable at their job is normal. It's something that happens all the time, but it ain't really... I guess it is normal, but you shouldn't be upset all the time and upset with the things around you all the time. So this Purva Bhadrapada can produce a various amount of different effects, which is why if you go look this nakshatra up on YouTube, you get so many different interpretations that it just leaves you confused. But I understand it. It's just that this nakshatra can take you into many different directions depending on your chart and depending on just your environment in your mind. But also, let's see what else did I take about this nakshatra. Because this nakshatra's deity is also sometimes interpreted as a one-footed goat, what do we know about goats? Or better yet, What can we connect the goat to? In Hinduism, in Vedic culture, there's a deity known as Daksha. Daksha is known as the god of rituals. And Daksha is portrayed having the head of a goat. But he does rituals all the time. He's great at doing rituals. So what does that teach us about this nakshatra? One, these people love doing either rituals or many they love playing with fire. They love playing with fire and being around fire, summoning things, manifesting things, worshiping a god or an entity. They love that shit. And what happens sometimes when you are praising a god or an ancestor or a deity, you typically give offerings. You find ways to please the deity that you are calling on for favors and stuff. So these people give offerings or sacrifices. And a goat is one of the stereotypical sacrificial animals used to sacrifice stuff. To sacrifice living things. To get what you want. So I don't know. You just see that people, this notion, they can just be real interested in rituals. And fire, and calling on the help and power and assistance of otherworldly things. That is one thing that you can see with Purva Bhadrapada. I'm trying to see what else do I have to say. Bear with me, people. I just don't want to miss nothing. Another thing that I want to say about this nakshatra is that really when it comes to Purva Bhadrapada, the next nakshatra, Uttar Bhadrapada, and Revati, it sort of plays as like this big grand cosmic story. Think about this. This is a nakshatra that's ruled by Jupiter, right? And I go into great details about this in my Secrets of Pisces video that I've made. It's somewhere in my playlist. I'm pretty sure it's probably in the miscellaneous playlist if you want to go see in great detail of what I'm about to say. But essentially my interpretation of this nakshatra all the way to the last two nakshatras after this is that think of Purva Bhadrapada like this, because Jupiter is the nakshatra lord. Jupiter is associated with expansion, and I'm telling you that this is a nakshatra that sort of wants to destroy things. So think about some great cosmic deity who is looking at the universe, and he sees all this life, and he sees all this life in creation. But before he can, expand or create new things, he needs to delete some stuff. So therefore, and before there can be creation, before there can be some expansion, before we can build something new, we got to destroy some old stuff. So this nakshatra is like essentially everything within the universe being destroyed. And then the next nakshatra, which you'll find out as I get into detail and when I make that video, is like the aftermath of the destruction. When everything is destroyed, you're no longer spitting out fire. See, people in Purva Bhadrapada, they can be upset and psychotic, as you can see when you look at the favorable activities of this nakshatra or the careers and professions of this nakshatra. You can see like a mortician or a plastic surgeon or all type of little things like that. These people are that fire breathing dragon because they got to worry about all these materialistic things. But when you lose but after you come to acceptance of like losing your material things, losing your house, losing your job, you find peace. Because you don't have to worry about those things that you was crying about no more. Yeah, you lost your girlfriend, your boyfriend. It hurt. But guess what? You don't gotta worry about taking care of someone else. You don't gotta worry about being attentive to someone else no more. You don't gotta worry about paying bills no more. You're essentially liberated. But Uttar Bhadrapada, the difference between them and Purva Bhadrapada is that those people, the essence of that nakshatra, are people who found a way to see, they found a way to be spiritual and just found a way to see the life and the divinity within the materialism of the world. They're not trying to run away from the world. They're able to exist within the world. And Revati is the final nakshatra falls in Pisces, and it essentially deals with nourishment and guiding a soul to like a highest stage of like enlightenment. So it's just funny. Purva Bhadrapada is like the destruction of the universe. Uttar Bhadrapada is like the emptiness, the vast emptiness and space of the universe. You're calm now. And Revati is like your soul reaching this highest state of liberation. And it's like life is coming back now. A cycle is starting over. Destruction, emptiness, nourishment, and fertilization, bringing life back. That's sort of what these last 3 nakshatras teach me. Purva Bhadrapada, Uttar Bhadrapada, and Revati. But right now in Purva Bhadrapada, you're just that fire-breathing dragon. And another thing you could associate this nakshatra with is Adisesha. Who is Adisesha? Adisesha is the serpent that Lord Vishnu lays on, who is a Naga. And like I said, when it came to looking up this nakshatra's deity, Ajakapada, serpents, or a serpent, is one of the interpretations that came up. And what do we know about Adisesha, or Seshnag, whatever title you want to pronounce him by? It's stated that he supports all the planets, or he supports Earth on his many-headed hoods. Because this is a serpent that has hundreds or thousands of heads. And it states that he supports Earth, or all the planets rest on top of his hoods. He is sustaining and help maintaining the, essentially the life of the Earth and of the universe in a sense. And another thing that's mentioned about Sesha, who is the snake that Lord Vishnu lays on while his wife Lakshmi rubs and massages his feet, it's stated that when he uncoils his body, the universe expands and grows. And what is sort of one of the things that's stated about our universe? It's stated that it's like constantly expanding or growing. But it's also theorized that at one point the universe will shrink, or the universe will stop expanding and will be destroyed. That's one thing that's also theorized. Well, mythologically, it's stated that when Sesha, when he retracts and recoils his coils, that destruction happens. That, life begins to end. The universe begins to shrink. So think of the deity Ajakapada as like that serpent who has the whole universe within his grasp, within his body. But now he's retracting his coils, and he's also spitting and breathing out fire on all of the things, of all the creation that is within his grasp. And then after he destroys all that stuff, he becomes this peaceful serpent like Uttar Bhadrapada. And then he recoils his body, and life begins to come back again. But right now, my best interpretation of Purva Bhadrapada is that this is like that serpent who is closing his coils, crushing and killing everything. But he's crushing and killing everything for some higher, nobler, maybe divine reason that we won't understand. But that's sort of like the essence of this nakshatra. So what else can I say about this nakshatra? I'm just making sure I am not missing nothing. I want y'all to really understand this nakshatra to the best of your ability. So let's break down the name Purva Bhadrapada. Y'all heard the name Purva before. Purva Falguni, Purva Ashada, and now Purva Bhadrapada. Purva essentially means like first, or something that happened before. But for the sake of this video, it means something that comes early, something that was first. And Bhadra, to my understanding, from what I looked up, it means auspiciousness, fortunate, and prosperous. And another thing that I came to understand is that in Hinduism, or in the Vedic Indian culture, there's several deities or prominent figures whose name is Bhadra. But the god of wealth, Kubera, his wife is named Bhadra. And this nakshatra and the following nakshatra, Purva Bhadrapada, are both associated with wealth. So therefore, we can interpret a whole lot of things and play around a whole lot. A Purva Bhadrapada person, like I said, they might obtain a lot of wealth, be born into wealth and money, or just, they might be satisfied and taken care of materialistically early on in life. Whether they're born into it, or whether they just acquire it through their own means and methods early. But like I said, they might end up eventually becoming unsatisfied with it. But you see an element of wealth associated with this nakshatra. And then also you can interpret this like this. These people could be seeking spiritual and divine wealth. They probably not care for money and bitcoins and all that. They want to feed their soul some spiritual wealth. But we see, regardless of how you want to interpret this nakshatra, that wealth and auspiciousness and fortune is associated with this. It might not be the type of fortune that we think of, Mega Millions, winning a lottery type of fortune, but it might be, like I said, more so of a spiritual and divine fortune. They could want to bestow wealth upon someone else. They could want to liberate someone's soul, and they might do that from morally right ways, or they might do it from questionable means and methods. Like, that reminds me of a clip that went viral on the internet of a person at a church, a pastor. He acted out a scripture in the Bible, and he literally spit on a person's face, or he spit on his hand and rubbed it on a person's face to convey a message that a Bible had stated. Now, y'all can go look this up on YouTube or on the internet because it's out there. But the pastor's intentions was he had good intentions, but sociably it's very wrong, or it's questionable that you just spit on someone in your congregation's face, or you spit on your hand and you rub your spit on one of your congregation members' face to prove a point. Their motivation was good, but the way they executed that motivation was questionable. And those are the type of things that a Purva Bhadrapada person can experience within their life. They might think they have good moral motivations, but the way they execute it could be wrong. And that can make you, and you can play around with that a whole lot. Like some Marvel Disney villains. The villain is effed up, but after you learn their backstory, you sympathize for them, or you understand them, but you don't agree with them. So you can see that type of stuff play out. One of the prominent names of people, when I looked up Bhadra in Hinduism, is that Krishna, one of his wives, was named Bhadra. And if my memory is right, from what I looked up on the internet, it stated that his 8th wife was named Bhadra. Now I put emphasis on the number 8, because when you think about the number 8, well, numerically, from numerology, 8 is associated with wealth. So therefore, Krishna's 8th wife being named Bhadra supports that this nakshatra has some association with wealth with it. But the number 8 can also be connected to the 8th zodiac sign in the 8th house. Scorpio rules the 8th house. What is the significance of the 8th house? Transformations, endings, death, sex, inheritance, psychological transformations, surgeries and incidents, the occult. All of those things that I said about the 8th house, you can very much so relate them and associate them with Purva Bhadrapada nakshatra. This is a nakshatra that can be associated with incidents and death and violence, inheritances through death, and a lot of transformations through pain, whether it's by accident or self-inflicted. So you see that You see that association, you see that connection. And Krishna is an incarnation of Vishnu. So him being married to a goddess of him being married to Bhadra, whose name means auspiciousness, and you can see that she was connected and married to the divine. These people could want to establish a connection with a divine figure, whether it be metaphysical or maybe political, or just some type of figure in the material world. They're like, hey, I watched all this person's content, I watched all this person's videos, I like how they talk, I like what they teach, I damn near put this person on a pedestal and worship them. You can see something like that with a Purva Bhadrapada person. And let's move on to the sexual animal, which is a male lion. What do we know about lions? Lions are known to sleep a lot. It's stated that a lion can sleep like for up to 20 hours a day. So how can you translate that over to a Purva Bhadrapada person? Well, you can literally translate that over and say that these people might sleep a lot, or you can say that a Purva Bhadrapada person just doesn't feel motivated. Because, as I told you, these people, this is the last nakshatra associated with Artha. These people feel as though that, you know what, I already achieved wealth before, either in this lifetime early on or my last lifetime. I don't really care to have the nice car, the nice women, or all this stuff. It doesn't bring me pleasure and excitement. So because they don't feel like doing nothing, they might sleep a lot. They might not be motivated. So they can have that lazy, not motivated energy to them sometimes when it comes to things. And also, I gotta be more specific because this is a male lion. The males move differently than the women. The male lions, they grow out their mane. And the mane is very impactful. I think they use their mane to either win over women, or it just shows regalness, royalness, and respect. So how can you translate that over to a Purva Bhadrapada person? These people might be very hairy, have crazy hairstyles, or let their hair grow very long, or it might just be untidy, unkept, very nappy, or just whatever. They just have wild hair, or just be a very hairy individual, because the lions like to grow their hair. The male lion likes to grow their hair out. Also, what you'll see with a Purva Bhadrapada person is that they're very territorial. Why? Because a lion, the male, see, the woman does the hunting, and the male, he watches over the pride, he watches over the land, he watches over the territory. And nature can be scary and cruel, because if another lion, you know, invades a land that's already occupied by another lion, they'll fight. And if that intruding, invading lion wins, of course he kills the husband, he kills the guy, and then he'll end up killing the children. If that guy that he killed had kids, he'll kill off the cubs. And then after he killed those babies, then he'll have sex and lay up with that that guy's wife. Doesn't that sound crazy? Think about this in a human perspective. Imagine you're the man of your house, and a guy comes into your house, breaks into your house, threatens you, y'all fight, and then boom, he knocks your gun out. Y'all struggling on the ground to get the gun, and he gets the gun. The invader gets the gun. He kills you. After he kills you, he kills your kids and your baby. After he kills you, he ends up having sex with your wife, or rapes your wife, or for whatever reason, which would be real crazy if this has ever happened, for whatever reason, after the invader kills you and your children, he ends up hooking up with your wife. You know, they start dating or whatever. Or maybe like your wife planned for you to get killed, so to get life insurance or whatever, and then she dates the guy that kills you. Some crazy stuff like that. But that's what lions do. The male lion will kill the kids, kill the husband, and then lay up and get the girl pregnant. So, from the perspective of the guy protecting the land, A Purva Bhadrapada person can be very territorial and protective over their material possessions. They could be very protective over their material possessions at first. They can be very attached to it at first. And that deep attachment to their material possessions could cause some great pain and suffering. But yes, you can just see that these people could just be very protective people in general over what's close to them. And on the other side, these people, they could be that invading lion. They might be that aggressor who might want to, I don't know, just be aggressive. But you see that aggressive nature associated with this nakshatra due to the lion. And another thing is that we can associate this nakshatra with, like, these people, they also sort of want to lead in a sense. Because the lions, the males, they have a pride, you know. They are the head of their family, they're the head of their land. They call the shots. So this is a nakshatra of people, probably especially in the Aquarius side. They want to lead and guide the masses. They want to be involved with the people, or just lead and guide. But these people can be leaders early on. And if not leaders, a Purva Bhadrapada person, whether it's an Aquarius or Pisces, it doesn't matter. The things that I'm saying, it really is interchangeable with very minimal changes, differences. These people can maybe attract a crowd and attract a following just based upon their ideas and the way that they think. They can be very radical and eccentric, and that can get them a lot of attention and make them obtain a large following and influence without their own intentions. It just happens. And what else can I see about this nakshatra? You can associate the male lion with the fourth major incarnation of Lord Vishnu, known as Narasimha. And essentially, it's stated that Vishnu incarnated into this form of a man-beast lion to protect his devotee known as Prahlada, if I'm saying his name right, Prahlada. And the story, the little mythological lore of him incarnating into this form goes like this. There was this demon who hated Vishnu because Vishnu, in his previous incarnation as the Varaha avatar, which was this giant boar avatar, Vishnu in that avatar killed this demon's brother. So therefore, this demon has resentment towards Vishnu. And it's stated that this demon had obtained the abilities to damn near not be able to get killed. The conditions of this, wish, I don't know off the top of my head because it's very intricate. It's a very intricate wish. You have to look up the details of the story itself. But essentially, and I'm paraphrasing here, this deity, this demon, made the wish or had his desires granted to not be able to be killed by man or woman or by a monster, and to not be able to get killed during daytime or nighttime, and to not be killed while on earth, and to not be able to get killed by weapons. So he made a very intricate wish to be like that. I can't be killed during the day, I can't be killed during night, I can't be killed by a man, I can't be killed by a woman or a monster or a weapon. He made his wish very particular and very intricate so that he could be unscathed. So therefore, after getting this fulfillment, this wish fulfilled, he grows an ego and thinks that, he considers himself to be God now. And he kills and slays anyone who worshipped and praised Vishnu as their God. He made himself God over God. And biblically, spiritually, or any type of, religion or faith system, that type of stuff never sort of pans out good. When you think that you're better and higher than God or some bigger cosmic power, it never plays out good. But anyway, this demon, ironically, his son, Prahlada, or whatever, he had a son who was a worshiper and devotee of Vishnu, and of course, naturally, the father was upset and pissed that what? My son worships and admires my enemy? So it stated that he attempted to kill his own son several times, but it failed because the child was protected by Vishnu. So it stated that one day that the father taunted the boy and asked him, if your God is so omnipresent and everywhere, why isn't he here? Why isn't he here right now? Why won't he face me? Why won't he fight me? Is he present here in this pillar? And then the child essentially responded and said, yes, Vishnu is present everywhere. He lives everywhere. He is everything. And yes, he's even there in that pillar you point to. So the father, the demon, out of anger, destroys the pillar. And then it stated after he destroyed the pillar that Vishnu just bursted out of nowhere, or bursted from the pillar in the form of this man-beast, this humanoid man-beast lion figure. And it's stated that he took the demon and had the demon rested on his lap, and he killed the demon during twilight. He killed the demon in the middle of the transition from daytime to nighttime. So you see, it wasn't exactly daytime and it wasn't exactly nighttime. It was right in between. Yeah, like I said, Vishnu in the form of this incarnation came, took the demon, placed him on his lap, and then ripped his chest open with his bare hands, with his nails. So therefore, by the specific intricate ways of how he killed this demon, he made the demon's wish, his abilities, null and void. Because like I told you, he didn't kill him during the day, and he didn't kill him during night. He killed him in between those times. And he didn't kill him on earth or on land, whichever one of those wishes it was. It was either he made the wish to not be killed on earth or land. But instead, he didn't die on earth. He didn't die on land. He died on the lap of this beast. And he wasn't killed by a weapon. He was instead had his chest ripped open by the nails, the claws of this incarnation of Vishnu. And it stated that after, in some interpretations, it stated that after he killed the demon, he drank the demon's blood. And after he drank the blood, Vishnu in this incarnation, he goes crazy, he goes mad, he goes wild, he goes violent. And he starts indiscriminately causing havoc and destruction on people and stuff. And one of the interpretations is that it stated that Shiva had to incarnate on earth into the form of a bigger and stronger beast, whose name I'm trying to pull up right now so I don't look like a negligent astrologer aspirant. But it stated that Shiva incarnated on earth as a bigger and more nastier and powerful beast in order to quell and subdue Vishnu, who had gone mad in this incarnation. But what can you take from this nakshatra that I just told you from that crazy story? The things that you can take from this nakshatra is that the main thing that was highlighted when I've read and learned this is that you see that the boy Prahlada was a devotee to Vishnu, and Vishnu came and protected his devotee. And like I said, this incarnation of Vishnu had like the face of a lion, and this sexual animal of this nakshatra is a male lion. So you can see that people of this nakshatra, they can protect their followers, they can protect their devotees. They'll kill for their followers, they'll kill for their devotees. They'll be territorial over what's theirs, over the people who worship and admire them and look up to them, their children or offspring. They'll look over them. And or you could be like the child, you could be like Prahlada. You could be, these people could want to be the one who is devoted to some higher power, to some divinity, to some person in a position of power. And or you can also see these people could be very violent and aggressive, or snap, as you just seen when I described, you know, how a lion will end up destroying another lion's family in order to rule the land. And just how I told you how Narasimha, this avatar of Vishnu, was so violent and yet intelligent, and how he went about slaying this deity and protecting his devotee. And another thing that I didn't know about lions is that lions are susceptible to being extinct, because lions are hunted so much that I believe, from what I quickly Googled, is that there's like roughly 20,000 lions roaming about, roughly. But the main thing is that they are hunted, and they are susceptible to being extinct. So therefore, there's not as many lions in the world as there once used to be, maybe in older times. So what can we take from that and apply that to a Purva Bhadrapada person? A Purva Bhadrapada person could probably be really susceptible to injuries, and or more particularly gun violence. Because how else are you going to kill a lion? If you're hunting lions, you're going to need a gun or a weapon. So a Purva Bhadrapada person, they can be susceptible to gun violence. Or they can just always feel as though that someone is after them. Someone could always be after, they can feel that someone is always after their material possessions, or after their knowledge. They can be after something that they don't even want. But now I'm just double checking to make sure I don't have nothing else to say about this nakshatra. But no, that is essentially it. One of the things that I also noticed, that when the moon, on some days when the moon was transiting Purva Bhadrapada, I would look at Ben 10. And what is Ben 10? Little cartoon show that you can watch on HBO Max. It's about a boy with a watch that allows him to transform into aliens. So think about that. The emphasis, aliens. Aliens are something that is otherworldly, something that we don't know about. That's something that a Purva Bhadrapada person can be into learning about things outside of our normal plane of existence. And he also lived a double life. During the day, or whatever. One moment he's a kid, a normal human being. On the other day, he transforms into an alien and becomes a superhero. So you see that theme of the twins. You see that double life right there that a Purva Bhadrapada person can have. This could just be associated with like alternate worlds and parallel dimensions. Anything associated with parallels and a double life. You might see those themes when the moon transits Purva Bhadrapada. But that's all I have to say about this nakshatra. I know this is a confusing nakshatra to explain, but hey, this is essentially what happens when you got planets in Purva Bhadrapada. Like, especially maybe. I haven't seen this. I would have to look at people who maybe have their 7th Lord or Venus in Purva Bhadrapada. But if I had to take an educated guess, I would say that someone who might have a Venus in Purva Bhadrapada, these people would probably be someone who might attract a lover who doesn't have no interest in the things in relation to Venus. Because Venus is all about love and sex and music and fine winery and drinks and all that stuff. And Purva Bhadrapada, it doesn't find satisfaction from that, or it'll get irritated from all that stuff eventually. So those people, they might end up dating and attracting people who might be a little bit weird and eccentric and might not like the normal type of things or partake in the normal type of things that other women or partners might be into, you know. And depending on where Saturn is in, Saturn is karma. Saturn makes you perform and pay your bills and dues and make you just do things, you know. So if, amateurly speaking, I'm just talking off the top of my head to prove a point. If like Saturn is in Purva Bhadrapada, depending on what house Saturn is in, then that person, they might be faced to deal with things that doesn't bring them pleasure, that they don't want to deal with, but they have to deal with it, you know. But yeah, that's Purva Bhadrapada. I'll just give you great clarity and insight on what happens if you have a planet in Purva Bhadrapada, or if your ascendant is in Purva Bhadrapada. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Well, like, comment on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're interested in me interpreting your birth chart, then there's a link in the About Me section on my YouTube, and you can go click that link. But other than that, I'll see you when I make my next video.